Happy Friday. Well, third time is the charm. I finally got the serial number tag put back on successfully. Looks good. So I ended up ordering up some little tiny, actually it was metric drill bits. Works out to about 65 thou, which was like a thou or two smaller than the actual shaft of these little itty bitty brass nails. And I put just a dab of epoxy on each nail as I put it in, and a little dab on the back of the serial number tag just for good measure. But yeah, it's good. I did a little sample test piece, drilled out a scrap of steel and tried it in there, and it went in good, and I couldn't pull it back out. And so I'm happy with that now. That project is finally done. My liner seems to dried up nicely, so if I can round up some gas resistant Permatex or whatever, I can put that top tank back on with the new gasket and whatnot. So yeah, like I said, if I can round some of that up, I'll do that this weekend. And then I got some more goodies. I got some stainless steel spring wire to make up that new spring on the linkages, so I can work on that project here someday. Probably when I go home next, Dad and I will do that on the lathe, make up a little fixture and try our hand at turning custom springs. And then I got some wrong chain. It's supposed to be a replacement for this stuff for the throttle governor control, but it ended up being I ordered the wrong stuff. According to the specs, I sure thought it was supposed to be the right stuff, but when you actually lay it side by side, it is not. It's bigger. So I'll have to try that again. Try the next size smaller, and hopefully that works. Yeah, I'm not sure what else I'm going to work on this weekend. Maybe I'll work on cleaning up some more of the clutch stuff. It didn't really get as nice out as it was supposed to. It's supposed to be super windy tomorrow and not very warm, so I don't know if I'll go outside and wire wheel the stuff up like I thought I was going to. Might have to work on something else instead. But yeah, I'll check back with you guys later. Happy Halloween! Working on putting the gas tank top on here today. I rounded up some gas resistant, fuel resistant Permatex. So that should work pretty good, I hope. I got it smeared on both surfaces here. Just following directions, letting it, says to let it thoroughly tack up before you put it together. So that's what I'm doing here now. Yeah. Happy Sunday. Well, yesterday I got the top tank put back on then, all the bolts tightened up for good. That all went really well. So that part of the project is done. I also got the pivot point bracket put back on here for good. So that part is done. The governor control rod goes from here down to the governor of the engine, and then there's a chain that goes from here to a pulley up to your throttle control. So that's what that's for. Kind of a note of interest, how things changed over the years. The earlier tractors, the top tank was different. They didn't have this ear here for this mounting for this. It was just straight. It matched the other side. And then they had a different cast bracket that mounted on these two bolts in place of this arm. And then I imagine they changed it because it was probably cheaper to machine a little rod and cast this bracket and change this casting slightly to accommodate this ear here instead of the more complicated casting that bolted underneath there. So I'm guessing why they changed it for cost saving measures. Unless it was a function thing, maybe this arm functions better. I'm not really quite sure there. But it's kind of interesting, if you remember, there's a casting number inside of this lid, and the suffix of it is the -2, which makes sense. This is the second version of it. Every time they changed a casting in some form, they would change that. There's a suffix number at the end of the main casting number. Like this one, for example, is a -5. So it started out, you know, -1 or whatever, and then every time they changed something, they would change that casting suffix. Like 2035 engine blocks is a good example of that. You have always the number and then the dash, and then you can roughly actually date the tractors roughly based on that suffix number. Every time they made a change, they changed that number. So that's kind of a little interesting note there, excuse me. Then yesterday I started working on this front cover assembly. I figured I kind of wanted to change the pace. I wanted to work on something different. I didn't feel like cleaning up clutch parts anymore, so move on to something else. It's all I got to get done, so sometimes you need a little change of scenery. So I took off the fan. Interesting that if you'll be able to see it on here, it says automotive parts company, INDL apostrophe, so Indianapolis, I'm assuming, and then it's HYX duty. I'll have to do a little research on that company, because all the literature I found, it calls for an Oaks fan on the 612s. So I don't know if this was just the Leroy spec'd a different fan this year, or Allis had a different supplier, or maybe it's been replaced. The actual arm is an Allis, got the AM casting number, and the pulley is different. It's got APCO 1350 hub instead of the one you typically see, so it's a little bit different there. I got that all taken apart. Got to get the Hyatt roller bearing out of there yet. There's a collar and a little snap ring holding that in place. Once you took that off of the arm, this pin's a little bit loose, so we might have to do some bushings there. But yeah, it's coming along. Finished taking that apart, and I'll check back with you. So I got the Hyatt roller bearing out of the hub. As I mentioned, in the end there was what was left of a felt seal. And the inside there yet is, you probably can't see in there. Let's see if I get the light just right. Is the inner race of the bearing. Can't really see in there very well, but so I'll have to do some research now, see if I can get a bearing like this. I don't see any numbers on the ends of it, so I'll just have to measure up shaft size and the ID and go based on that. And then on the end, so this was in there like that. So the bearing goes in. There was this washer, and then this oil bronze oil light washer behind that, and that's what that that collar rode up against, and then the snap ring held that all in place on the shaft. And then what keeps the shaft from going this way in the hub, because it can't go this way because of the, everything on there, but there's nothing to stop it from going that way except when the fan hub is on there. Basically that's your stop. The shaft can't work its way out because it'll hit the fan hub, and it kind of just floats in there then, I guess. That's how it's kind of designed to work. Like I was saying, this arm goes on, which way does it go? This way. Show what you're doing. Goes on this way. And your pivots on there. You have your belt tension is adjusted, goes around the main belt of your crankshaft up to there. And then from this arm going down, there is a spring which connects to a rod, like basically a fancy bolt that goes down through this hole that you can adjust to adjust your tension there, to adjust your fan belt tension. So if anything breaks, though, it's got that arm, so it only got so much stop to it, so it can't. So say either your fan belt breaks or your spring breaks, the fan can't come down and smash into your radiator fan shroud. It's only got so much movement in there. Like I said, this pin is rather worn. There is a significant amount of play. You can kind of see it there. There's a significant amount of play on there, so that's probably going to have to be machined out, put a bushing in there, and hopefully, well, we'll see what's worn, if it's this or if it's this or both. With any luck, it's just this, so we can bore it out, put a like an oilite bearing in there, bushing, and that'll tighten up the slop there, because you don't want that rattling around any more loose than it already is. So that's another project for another day. I'll have to make that adjusting bolt for the end of that spring, because I'm pretty sure I'm missing that. I'll have to look through my couple of jars of miscellaneous hardware that came with this tractor, but I'm pretty sure that was gone. But that's easy enough to fab. Get a friend to get me a couple of dimensions on how big that is, and I can make up one of them. Interesting little note on this front cover. There is a cast-in channel here. So when your crankshaft is in here, there's a couple of pins in here. The one pin, because there's supposed to be a spring too to keep the crank to go back, so it doesn't work its way into the front of the pulley when you don't want it to. You gotta push it in to hand crank start it. Anyway, there's a cross pin in here that holds the hand crank vertical when it's not being used, so it doesn't dangle down and potentially get caught on something. The spring tension is supposed to hold it in that groove and hold it vertically. So that's kind of an interesting little feature. Radiator mounts here, of course, on the front of the tractor. It looks like there was some pads or blocks or something. You can kind of see the marks, or it looks like there was rectangle something's there. I still haven't figured out what's supposed to be there as far as mounting. Because like I said in the past video, in the parts book, it calls for some 2 bushings and 4 little springs. So I'm not sure, if the bushing is to go inside of here. I'm not showing very good today. I'm talking, but not looking at what I'm looking at. The bushing is supposed to be in here. And then I'm speculating like a spring on top and bottom is kind of a cushion. I'm not sure. I really don't know. I haven't been able to find the answer to that question yet. So if anybody knows about that, let me know. I'll have to figure that out here sooner rather than later. There's a couple of issues with this front cover, and I'm not entirely sure I'm going to know how to address at this point. This corner of this casting is chipped out. There's bolts that go in all these holes that bolt this cover to the front of the engine. This one is broke out. Probably end up, I'm not sure, I'll have to build it up somehow. Whether I bring it to somebody to braze it up, or if I just get some JB Weld or something and go that route. And then there's a few hairline cracks in this casting as well too, that I don't know if I'll actually even do anything with, if I'll just pretend I didn't see them. I don't think it's really a structural thing, but it is a little bit concerning. There's a little bit of a hairline crack in this casting by this hole. Where were the other ones? There's a little bit of a hairline crack. Come on, focus camera. On this one, there was about 3 of them that had little hairline cracks. I'm not sure which other one it was, but I think there was one more. Anyway, so I'm not sure. Maybe it was just that chip I was thinking of, 1, 2, 3. But I'll have to get it all cleaned up and inspect it really well and see if that's worth trying to repair, or if you're better off just leaving well enough alone. Because like I said, structurally, I don't think it's going to probably get any worse. They're old cracks as it is because they're rusty. So I don't think they're going to get much worse. Hopefully. That's a chance you take, though. But there's always the chance, you say you bring it to somebody to get it brazed up or welded up or whatever, well, then you take the risk of wrecking things even farther if that person doesn't know what they're doing. Then you really got a mess. And obviously this is a very complicated part to have to get remade or whatever. If it came to that, I really don't want to have to go down that route. So we'll probably just make do with what we got, and it is what it is type of a situation. But yeah, well, first things first, we'll get it all cleaned up and go from there. So yeah, that's kind of what I know at this point. I'll see what else I get done here today and check back a little bit later. Well, it ended up being a pretty nice afternoon here outside. So I got a little ambitious and set up the wire wheel and got some of these parts roughly cleaned up. Nothing completely cleaned yet, but the first layer of gunk off. So pretty good little accomplishment for the day, I guess. Gonna probably head home here now and See if I can find, try to do a little research, see if I can find new height bearings for this hub. And depending on what I find, we'll decide what I do with that. So yeah, I'll keep you guys posted. One more little surprise for the week here. I was given this benchtop sandblaster deal unit. So I'm going to work on getting this tuned up. Should be a pretty handy little thing to have for cleaning up tractor parts. Needs a little loving. It's been sitting neglected for quite a while, but needs a new pair of gloves and a new screen protector. Some new sand, of course. Lots of cleaning, and possibly come up with some type of an adapter to hook up a shop vac to it. Just a Harbor Freight special or whatever. Nothing too fancy, but I think it'll be pretty handy for cleaning up tractor parts. So I'll start by cleaning it all up here first and see what we got. But yeah, so that'll be, look forward to that in future videos. Hopefully we'll get this up and running, clean up some parts. So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. See you next week. Well, that kind of snowballed. I decided to do a little bit of cleaning and ended up taking it apart, doing a little level 1 tidy, getting the big junk off of it, straighten out a few dents, tighten up the hinge, straighten up the door a little bit. The light works. Took apart all the gloves so I can order up some new gloves. So yeah, put some new weather stripping on everything, sealed all up good, and should be good. A little more cleaning. All right, now for sure this time. This is the end of the video. Thanks for watching.